Welcome to RaWMachines, a journey to discover the most impressive processes around the world. In today's episode, we will follow the marvelous rebirth journey of wood, from the deep forest to the mill, from raw material to the finished product. Our destination is Columns Lumber Products, a legendary sawmill in the southern United States, where technology and nature harmonize in every movement. Let's begin. As the sun just crests the forest, convoys of log trucks head straight for the mill gate. Each log is an individual, different in age, species, and grain, but all are the main characters in this mechanical rebirth journey. Each truckload of wood is weighed by an electronic system to accurately determine its weight. A single shipment can weigh up to 26 tons, equivalent to 15 adult elephants. After being unloaded by the hydraulic crane, the logs are placed onto the log deck, the starting platform for their journey. Here, the wood is moved by the conveyor to the automatic debarker. Amidst the screech of the steel rollers, the rough bark is stripped away, revealing the bright pale wood underneath, pure and raw. The bark is not discarded, it is ground down, and then becomes biomass, supplying energy to the mill itself. A small, closed, no-waste cycle. Once the log is cleaned, a 3D laser scanner begins to scan its entire shape, creating a digital model accurate to the millimeter. The artificial intelligence system analyzes this model to determine the optimal cutting direction, the way to yield the most, best-looking, strongest wood from every fiber. In the blinking blue light of the laser, the log is as if its soul is being illuminated, and from there, its own future is shaped. After being debarked, the wood can follow two paths. Larger logs, with diameters up to 1 meter, are transferred to the head rig, head saw. This machine is responsible for the initial separation of large logs into thick boards, called slabs, and solid central blocks, called cants. The head rig is guided by a multi-point laser scanning system, but instead of just calculating speed, it calculates the cutting strategy, how to ensure each cut both creates maximum value and preserves the internal grain structure of the wood. As for the smaller logs that do not require complex separation, they are transferred to the single-pass saw system. From one end to the other, the log takes only a few seconds to completely change its form. When it exits the machine, it has become a bundle of parallel boards, perfectly uniform, bright in color, with clear grain visible. Here, simplicity is the peak of efficiency. There is no waste, no hesitation, only technology and a clear objective, converting raw material into a precisely shaped product. After each cut, the slabs are transferred to a secondary line for further resawing, splitting them into thinner boards, while the solid central core, can, is sent to the curved gang saw, where naturally curved wood is processed to maximize the utilization of every fiber. The curved gang saw is a marvel of modern engineering, designed to cut along the natural curvature of the log, rather than forcing it into an artificial straight line. A sensor system scans the log's entire shape, creating a precise three-dimensional map simulating every curve. This data is transmitted to the central control unit, where a series of algorithms calculate the optimal sawing path, ensuring that each cut both aligns perfectly with the wood grain and yields the highest production volume. As the process begins, the log moves through a set of rollers that can rotate and tilt flexibly at every slight angle. The saw blades, instead of being fixed, are mounted on an axle system capable of bending and leaning according to the predetermined scanned path. At a speed of several thousand revolutions per minute, the thin, ribbon-like steel blades glide through the log, gently yet decisively, leaving a smooth, unbroken, and unsplintered cut surface. The feeling is almost surreal, as if steel is reading the language of wood. The result is a 10–15% increase in wood recovery compared to traditional straight sawing. After the initial sawing stage, the wood boards still retain a hint of the forest's wildness, curved edges, rough ends, and coarse surfaces. Now they need to be refined to become industry-standard products. On the conveyor, the boards move toward the edger area. Here, laser sensors scan the two edges of the board, determining which part is useful wood and which part needs to be removed. In a flash, steel saw blades descend, slicing through the board edges at incredible speed. In just one pass, the two edges of the wood are cleanly trimmed, straight and parallel. From the edger, the boards continue sliding to the trimmer cross-cutting station. This system consists of dozens of saw blades positioned 2 feet apart. As the board moves through, only the necessary blades are activated, trimming precisely to the standard size. The entire workshop operates like one massive synchronized machine. At every stopping point, people are silently observing, checking every cut, listening for every change in the machine's sound. They don't just operate the machines, they care for the wood, ensuring that every board leaving the line is the crystallization of technology and respect for the material. After being perfectly cut and trimmed, the boards continue sliding on the steel conveyor to the finishing and drying area. This stage determines the durability, color, and ultimate utility value of each board. The sorter system operates like a tireless army. Each board is lifted, rotated, and gently dropped into the bin corresponding to its size, length, and thickness. When sufficient quantity is reached, the stacker machine begins its work. Mechanical arms pick up each board and place it atop the others, interspersed with thin wooden strips known as stickers. These serve to allow even air circulation during drying. This is a rare, peaceful moment on the production line. After the sounds of cutting and screeching, everything is now just the deep, steady sound of the air compressor, like a long breath before entering the kiln. The drying process is not simply about getting the wood dry. It is a delicate refinement, requiring a balance between heat, time, and time. If the heat is too high, the wood will crack. If it is too low, it will not be dry enough to be stable. Therefore, every kiln is fitted with sensors that continuously measure the moisture content, updating data every few minutes. When the process concludes, the doors open again. The steam dissipates, revealing boards that are evenly dried, lighter, harder, and possess a natural warm yellow color. They are no longer the damp material of the forest. They are now engineered lumber, ready for the construction and furniture industries. Wood enters the final stage, finishing and inspection. The first step is planing. Here, high-speed rotating blades smooth the surface, creating a seamless feel and uniform thickness. Once the surface is finished, the wood passes through the grading station. Part of the work is handled by experienced craftsmen, who can spot hidden cracks or small knots just with a glance. The rest is performed by industrial cameras and machine learning algorithms, identifying over 70 different types of defects. When the wood meets the standard, the grade stamp is printed onto the board, a small symbol that holds the entire honor of the mill, certifying that this board is fit to enter human life. When everything is complete, each wood consignment is bundled and shipped. Steel straps are tightened around the wood stacks, and identification tags and the mill's logo are printed onto the surface. Forklifts carry them out to the loading area, where the natural sunlight makes the wood gleam with a honeycomb. Some bundles are loaded onto trucks to serve the domestic market. Others are moved to the port, awaiting export to distant regions. From here, the wood's new journey begins. Some boards will become house frames, others flooring, and some will be carved, painted, or sculpted in furniture workshops. And in every one of these products, the essence of this mill remains. where forest trees are reborn through technology, where nature and machinery meet in mutual respect. The drying and finishing stage concludes not with the sound of machines, but with silence. In that silence, one understands that the wood is ready to live another life, longer, more durable, and perhaps even more beautiful than the original tree itself. From theory to reality, the journey of wood becomes clearest at Columns Lumber Products, one of the most advanced and oldest sawmills in the southern United States. Columns Lumber began as a small planing mill in the 1930s. Back then, there were only a few workers, a bandsaw, and some canvas to shield them from the weather. Over nearly a century, this family business has grown into a massive production system, capable of processing millions of board feet of lumber annually. Yet, amidst the automated conveyor belts and touchscreens, the spirit of the old mill remains, the spirit of respect for wood, people, and the forest. The morning at Columns begins at the log yard. Thousands of trunks are stacked like giant walls. The strong scent of pine resin permeates the air, and steam rises in the early sun. This is the mill's raw material bank, a plentiful reserve to keep the production line running continuously, regardless of weather or fluctuations from the deep forest. And when the signal from the control center lights up, the crane gently lifts each log onto the log deck, feed floor, where it will be reborn in a new form. The mill's debarker is a gigantic rotating steel cylinder, where logs roll through and are stripped clean of their rough bark. The bark fragments fall onto the conveyor belt below. They are not discarded, but collected for biomass fuel or landscape mulch. Next, the wood passes through the laser merchandiser. This is the point where technology begins to intervene deeply. A network of laser beams scans the log, creating a three-dimensional image of each segment, its length, diameter, curvature, and defects. A central computer processes hundreds of calculations in a split second to determine the optimal wood utilization. If the log meets the perfect size and straightness, it is routed for processing into utility poles or beams. If not, it is cut into standard lumber. Every decision is made instantly, both fast and accurate. Here, artificial intelligence does not replace humans. It amplifies their capabilities. The operator only needs to look at the control panel, where dozens of cutting models are displayed, and select the optimal option suggested by the system. Subsequently, the log is directed to the appropriate sawing line. At Columns Lumber, there are two main lines, each a world unto itself. The first line is the carriage saw line, reserved for enormous logs with large diameters. The wood is secured onto a motorized carriage, after which a laser scans it one last time to determine the optimal cutting path. The first cut sounds, dividing the log into large slabs, thick, heavy, and smelling warmly of wood resin. These slabs will be resawn on a secondary line into boards, while the central core, the thickest and hardest part, is sent to another line for the curve gang saw, curved cutting. This is where machine and human perform together. Workers monitor the cutting direction and adjust the speed, ensuring every cut aligns precisely with the laser map. The result, a wood recovery rate exceeding 90% with almost no waste. The second line is the reducer twin saw line, a more sophisticated system specializing in processing medium and small logs. Here, chip heads plane two sides of the wood before the vertical saw blade splits it, creating two boards with perfectly planed surfaces. The log is then automatically rotated to cut the remaining sides, removing the sideboards, typically 1 to 2 inches thick. The remaining core is then sent to the curved saw gang. Here, flexible, thin saw blades move along the natural curvature of the wood grain, optimizing every inch of the raw material. Columns' chief engineer once said, "We don't force the wood straight, we listen to it." And indeed, this system is proof of that philosophy. Technology respecting the laws of nature to maximize yield without breaking the wood fiber structure. From here, the boards are transferred to the edger, edging, and trimmer cross-cutting area. The curved edges are cut flat, and the lengths are standardized. An industrial camera system checks every cut, comparing it against the technical design to ensure each board meets the exact specifications. At every step, people are supervising, not only for safety requirements, but because the craftsman's eye can still see things the machine cannot yet perceive. Once the wood has reached its standardized shape, it is moved to the sorting and stacking area. Here, the automatic sorter line, dozens of meters long, receives them. Each board passes through size and weight sensors to determine its thickness, width, and specific gravity. Based on this information, the system sorts the boards into over 40 different bins. When each bin has a sufficient quantity, the stacker machine starts up. Hydraulic arms lift the boards, stacking them into uniform piles. Between the layers, small wooden strips, stickers, are inserted to create gaps for airflow. This is a seemingly minor detail, but it is vital. Without stickers, the wood will not dry evenly, leading to future warping and twisting. When completed, the piles of wood, nearly 2 meters high, are pushed by forklifts to the kiln waiting area. Here, hundreds of stacks are neatly arranged, a scene that is both majestic and tranquil. The scent of fresh wood permeates the air, rich and warm. Stack of boards is loaded into a massive industrial dry kiln. The steel doors close, and from that moment, heat, humidity, and pressure begin their dance of physics. The automated control system keeps the temperature between 70 and 90 degrees Celsius, cycling hot air to ensure every board dries evenly, from the core to the edges. Electronic sensors are inserted deep into the wood, tracking internal moisture hour by hour. The readings appear on a central monitor, forming wave-like graphs, almost like a heartbeat. When the curve approaches the 15% mark, the engineers know the wood has reached perfect equilibrium. During the process, water inside the wood fibers slowly evaporates, leaving behind a more stable, lighter, and stronger structure. Each species has its own drying cycle. Pine takes about 48 hours, redwood 72, and white oak up to 5 days. Everything is automated, yet the engineers still walk the floor, checking, listening, ensuring every run is safe and precise. When the kiln doors finally open, the dry lumber emerges, bright, light, and golden, like honey. From here, it's ready to be packed and shipped to markets around the world. Beyond just boards, the sawn timber industry is also transforming to embrace a new philosophy: zero waste. Advanced production facilities, such as Columns Lumber, are pioneering the reuse and creative transformation of all surplus products, turning waste into valuable resources, thereby minimizing environmental impact. Large wood scraps are ground into wood chips, which are sent to paper mills or plywood factories. Fine sawdust is compressed into biomass wood pellets, a clean fuel source for the mill's own boilers, completely replacing fossil fuels. And the bark, once considered trash, is now ground and dried into mulch, a ground cover material that helps retain moisture and protect crops. Thanks to this, the mill generates virtually no organic waste. Biomass energy from the wood, the waste itself, supplies heat for the kilns. The kilns dry the dry wood creates new waste products, and the cycle continues to repeat. A self-sustaining system, efficient, economical, and astonishingly environmentally friendly. As the sun sets, warm vapors from the drying area still linger and rise, blending with the last light of the day. In that moment, Columns Lumber no longer resembles a factory, but a living organism breathing, inhaling the forest, exhaling sustainability. From anonymous round logs in the deep woods to perfect industry-standard boards, that journey takes less than a day, yet it encapsulates a century of experience, discipline, and operational philosophy. At Columns Lumber, every board that leaves the line is not just a commercial product, but a testament to the balance between humanity and nature, where technology does not conquer but nurtures and inherits. And as we look back on this journey, from the forest to the mill, from sawing to packaging, we see a simple yet profound truth. Every value of sustainability begins with respect. Respect for the forest, so the forest can be reborn. Respect for the craft, so the skills can be preserved. Respect for the material, so nothing is wasted. Respect for time, so the product doesn't just exist, but lives alongside humans. A wooden board might lie silent in a house wall for hundreds of years, enduring wind, rain, and the forgetfulness of time. But if we look closely, it is still telling a story. The story of the forest, of human hands, of the steady rhythm of the saw, and of the aspiration to extend the life of the natural world. The forest, the primal source of life, is now extended in the form of the city, in roofs, staircases, or window frames. But wherever it is, the breath of the forest remains, hidden in the scent of resin, in the wood grain, in the hand that touches the product. The mill does not kill nature. It translates that living energy into a new form, orderly, functional, and with a soul. And perhaps that is the greatest message these boards wish to convey. That technology is not the adversary of nature, but the tool that helps humanity understand and preserve it more deeply. As night falls over the industrial park, the mill lights remain on, the machinery hums steadily, and bundles of lumber continue to leave the line, heading out into the world. In each consignment, there is the scent of pine resin, the trace of the craftsman's hand, and the whispered voice of the distant forests. This is not just the end of a production process, but an eternal cycle of life and creation, where wood, technology, and humanity together continue to write the long, endless story of matter and intelligence in the future. Thank you for listening to the end of the story. If you also enjoy similar videos, please hit the like button, share, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any fascinating stories to come. RaWMachines says goodbye and see you next time.